What's going on, everyone? I'm Jabari K Smith, and you're experiencing The Professional Athlete. Now, today's episode, I get the privilege of working with a world-class athlete, the lady of long jump, Miss Tori Polk. Entrepreneur, author, public speaker, life coach, model, not to mention, she's a fellow Texas Tech Red Raider. Today, we're gonna talk about sports, we're gonna talk about business, but most importantly, we're gonna talk about life. So let's go. So Tori, tell us, what was it like growing up in Waco, Texas?
Oh, Waco. Small city, Baylor proud. Not too much going on in Waco. I was the youngest of a blended family. Everyone was an athlete. Good living, family knit tight,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
So when did you discover that you were an athlete?
Oh, I knew from the time I was a child. I've been the fastest kid in school since I was in kindergarten.
Oh my goodness, since kindergarten? No, were you competitive in kindergarten, or you just was naturally fast?
I was naturally fast, but I was always racing the boys too.
Wow, that's a good way to start. Did you play any other sports besides track?
Soccer.
Soccer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Soccer from the time I was a child, all the way from kid through high school. My father was my coach, and so he was kind of the molding of the athlete for the...
That makes a lot of sense. And so during that time coming up as an athlete, how was your support system since your dad was a coach?
It was good. I think I was always with my dad. That made a big difference. And I had siblings that were athletes as well. I always tell people I'm a proud, I had my cousins that they ran on the women's mile relay record-setting team for the Americans in Seoul.
Wow.
And so athleticism kind of ran in the family.
Yes, in your DNA.
Just a little bit, a little bit.
So, man, you're just naturally ready to run and just be good in sports. Well, okay, so you're running, you're in Waco, Texas. Sports is pretty much your entire atmosphere. How did you view your identity at that time, being an athlete?
I think I owned it. I owned it.
Tell us more. Yeah.
I remember in high school, I worked in the mall. I worked at Foot Action. I loved it. But everybody in Waco knew, like, I was Tori Polk, the girl at Midway, the fast girl. She could long jump. They knew when they came in the store, hey, what's up? That's you. I think it was known through the city.
Okay. So, Tori, you're running track. You're beating everyone in every event. Now it's time for college. Like, walk us through that recruiting process.
The recruiting process for college was interesting. Coming out of high school, I was number 3 in the state in track and field for long jump. I was highly recruited, but also it was for the 400. I was more recruited to run a 400 than I was for long jump. But
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I
had a quick 200, a fairly decent 200 to be, for colleges to work with. And certainly, I think they seen the potential that could have been there.
Got it.
And I was heavily recruited for that. Trying to decide what college to go to, my parents, they let that responsibility fall on me.
Really?
And so it was, when you're 17 or 18, you kind of...
That's a tough decision at 17.
You don't know exactly what is important as far as choosing a school or, what you need to look at.
Exactly. I mean, extremely important because it's life-changing. And I know you said you come from a background of athletes, but are you a first-generation college athlete?
No, I had a sister that was in college. She went to Texas Tech as well.
Red Raider. Let's go.
Red Raider, exactly. Which kind of helped fuel my decision. I knew that I didn't want to be in the SEC. I know I wanted to stay in the Big 12. As far as education, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do at the time. And, I think it was just wide open. I took several college visits, but I still landed on my home state. I think I wanted to stay in Texas. I knew I did.
That made a lot of sense. But you didn't want to go to the school right in your backyard?
No. I didn't want to go to Baylor because they wanted me to run the 400.
Okay.
Hands down. And I said, I didn't want to do that. And then I think at Texas, the number 1 girl in the country was going to Texas. And I said, I didn't want to do that number.
Yeah.
And then at A&M, their program hadn't came along to what it is today.
Right.
And so I think Tech was left on there. My sister went there.
It's a great decision. I mean,
yeah.
We all love Tech, right?
So it worked out. It worked out well, though. College, the whole experience, as far as the athleticism and coming in with track and field, I'll never forget my first day of practice. I think we had something, it was circuits, push-ups, running bleachers, sand pit, all kinds of stuff. And my initial thought was, this is hard. Can I do this 4 more years? Like, do I have what it takes to stay out here? Wow. It was pretty much leveling up from high school to a new level.
Right.
And that was my initial thought, but I got over that. I got over it and pushed through. With my education, as far as choosing a major, I came in and I was taking my basics the first year and a half. And they said, okay, Tori, you got to have your hours. We need you to solidify what it is that you want to major in. And I asked my career counselor, I was like, well, what's the quickest thing? What's the quickest thing that's going to get me there? And she said, well, accounting, if that's what you want to do. I said, all right, let's do that.
You know what? I'm guilty of that as well. That's what I did when I get there. I was like, what degree am I going to graduate on time in a degree where I can stay eligible because I know how demanding this football schedule is going to be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. You and me both then.
Yeah.
So you're running track, highly competitive. Like, was that an experience that you had expected?
I think the experience was one in its own. I don't know what I expected from collegiate athletics. I think I always knew from the time I was a child I wanted to run. And to be given the opportunity to run in college, I soaked it up. I remember I had teammates around me that I feel like they took it for granted to some degree or another. And I can remember comments and, just the little things. But for me, it was a blessing. And I think I relished in it. I loved it.
Right. Took advantage of the opportunity, which it landed you and gave you another opportunity to be a professional athlete.
Correct.
So walk us through that transition.
Oh, that one was real.
That was real. You step it up another notch, right?
Exactly. And it seems like, and it's not like that for every person that, goes into I guess the journey of becoming a professional track and field athlete. I know for each sport they have their own path that they take, but for track and field it's slightly different. If you have certain times, certain jumps, throws, whatever the case may be, it's almost like you don't have to go find it, they come find you. And with track and field, my last 2 years I was injured. I ended up redshirting my senior year, and then the redshirt year I got hurt again. So I knew what possibilities lie there before were going to be made slightly harder, and I was going to have to take a different approach to wanting to jump on the scene as a professional track and field athlete. So literally I moved to Arkansas and I was training out there, and it was a grind all the way from the bottom to where I ended up finishing as far as my career is concerned. I came in nobody, just starting from nothing and just putting in the work and getting better. A personal best, if I set that, even if it was by 1 inch, that was enough for me to know, like, I'm still supposed to keep going.
Right.
I'm still supposed to keep going. So.
Right. So how did that process affect you psychologically? Because, from early ages, you were the best. And now you just mentioned you had to start from the ground up again. So, like, how were you able to handle that psychologically?
It was very, very humbling.
Okay.
Very humbling. I think having the right people around you. I had a best friend that believed in me from the moment I stepped on Texas Tech's campus. And they were the person that they stayed in my ear. They helped pull networking and people that they knew to help me move further along in what it was that I wanted to do. But even in the moments where you have the doubts and the fears, and those times where, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can keep pushing with the struggle of what it was that I wanted to accomplish. Because, a lot of people don't realize I might have had a 10-year span, but I don't consider myself a professional or the status of it until I was about 4 to 5 years in, about 4.5 years in.
Wow.
And
why is that? Is it because you had to hit a certain status on the professional ranks?
It wasn't even that. I think it was just me personally holding myself to a certain standard. And certainly, I didn't make my first team until 2011, but I graduated from college in 2007. Right. So starting on the professional scene in 2008 and just going like that, it took time. I don't think I considered myself a real athlete till I made a U.S. team.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective to take away. So that's about 4 or 5 years that you're grinding, and I know you mentioned you had a support system, but it's interesting to hear you say even during that time you wanted to, I don't want to say quit or give up, but you felt hopelessness. So like,
there were moments of it. Yeah.
So like, what kept you in that race? Like, what kept you motivated during that time?
It was just the thought of knowing that I got it. I know I have what it takes. It was the process and the progression, like the steady going out and grinding and getting out what you put in, like, and I could see it.
I agree.
That kept me going.
Okay, I agree. Why don't you share with us your most memorable moment as a professional athlete?
Most memorable. It had to be when I became a national champion. The meet was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I was in my hotel room, getting my clothes together, getting dressed, taking my time, getting ready for the competition. Well, prior to that, coming in that week, I looked at the schedule vaguely. That was my fault. I looked at the schedule vaguely, and I saw the times. And I remember my manager was calling. He was like, "Tori, where are you at? Where are you at?" I was like, I'm getting dressed. That went on back and forth 3 or 4 times. And then one of my last calls, he's like, "Where are you at? They are starting the women's long jump in just a minute."
Whoa.
I said, "What?" Luckily, by this time, I was dressed, but I was just getting ready for the meet. And I was like, "Oh, I'm coming down. I'm going to come down. Luckily, my hotel was about 200 meters from the track. So I grabbed my bag, ran through the streets, and he met me outside the facility. And so as soon as I got there, and he was standing on the outside, we just stopped. I was like, okay, let me grab my composure before I walk in here for anybody to know what's really been going on.
Right.
So as soon as we open the door, we get in, they give me my bib number. They're like, all right, women's long jump, we're going out on the track. So literally, I walked in and they walked us out onto the track. While the lady is talking, kind of giving the preliminary rules of everything, I'm just looking like, all right, so how much time do we got on the clock until it's time to go? She said, okay, you got, I think it was about 12 minutes left or something. I did a couple of strides, a couple of drills. Remind you that I still have to get on the runway to check my marks, this long jump, to make sure everything is okay. I got a couple of approaches in, and I remember I looked over at my manager, and he was just like, just relax, chill out, calm down. Competition started. Long story short, it was my best series I ever had up to that point.
Wow.
I think, and it was something that I learned about myself later on as I got a little bit more time in track and field. I tend to be able to zero in and focus when the pressure was on. Like, if you put me in a corner, I'm gonna find my way out.
Yeah, like a true professional would. If this is what you're supposed to do, you can turn it on and turn it off.
My ability that meet to be able to zero in, I was just in the zone.
Wow. That's amazing. That's a crazy story. So pretty much you got your warm up from jogging from the hotel to the stadium.
Exactly.
Wow.
Ran from the hotel to the stadium onto the track.
That's unique. That's interesting. So now I want to talk about your transition. I mean, you had a healthy athletic career, both high school, collegiate, and even professional. At what moment did you decide to put the cleats up for good?
I think every athlete probably, you battle that game in your head. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always happen in the year that you actually retire. I think a lot of thought goes into it, maybe a year or two prior to that.
That's true. Yep.
And that was kind of what it was for me. The year before that, I had already thought about retiring. I was kind of on the fence. But I knew going into 2016, I was like, well, if I'm going to give a legitimate run at trying to make an Olympic team, Tori, you got to make up your mind. And I made up my mind, and injuries came and struggled, and I struggled a little bit throughout the year. And then you finally know, you're like, it's time. It was just time. And so I think like the whole transition as far as the aspect of deciding when, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know.
So, I mean, how did you deal with that transition once you made up your mind? I mean, did you have a backup plan?
No.
I'm guilty too. Me neither. Me neither. Yeah.
I can't even fake the funk.
Yeah.
I make jokes about it now. I'm lighthearted. I've been removed from it for maybe about 15, 16 months. Mm-hmm. And I always say at my kid, I was like, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. You think you have more time, but when the time comes, you got to be forced to step into your new role. And it's a discovery process. We have been in this role, this place, this whole mindset for who knows how long, depending on how long your career was. Yeah. And then many of us have played this sport since we were a child.
Exactly.
And just finding yourself in your stride and realizing how to use the strengths and the characteristics that you learned as an athlete and be able to place those into wherever you're going. I think it's a process and it's a gradual learning and growing of yourself.
That's an interesting and unique perspective. And all the guests that I interview kind of share the same point of view. It's like, hey, I've been doing this ever since I learned how to tie my shoe, had this regimen. And even if it changed, it didn't change that significantly and it stayed in the same direction. So to just up and stop and say, hey, time to do something else, it's a shock. So, I mean, with that being said, like, how did that affect you emotionally?
Oh, yeah. You miss it. It's a relationship, so to speak, that you've had, regardless. When it was good, it was good. When it was bad, it might have been bad. It's something that you didn't give up on.
Right.
And I don't want to say you part ways. You're not divorcing from it. You're just taking on a new role in the relationship. And it was rough. I missed it, but I didn't express it to anybody. I didn't say anything to anyone. I think I kind of kept it to myself. I had family members like, oh, you're good, you're great. But they didn't realize, what I was thinking or what I was feeling on the inside. And it's almost like post-professional athletes don't speak about this. And
were you embarrassed to share that with, the people that are close to you?
It wasn't even an embarrassment. I think, you just, you pack your bag, you make your bed, whatever it is, and you lie in it and you just keep moving. I'm one of those ones that, hey, this is.
Yeah. I kind of felt the same way. I was like, well, it's nobody else's problem. It's mine. I got to face it, man up.
Yeah.
But, the problem is we bottle it all in. And, us athletes, we have this sense of pride where we don't want to show our pain or our vulnerability. So
Correct.
we just hold it all in and, suffer it on the inside, which is totally unhealthy. Completely unhealthy. But, more of us, we do that. And so it's interesting to hear that, you did the exact same thing, and you actually had a very supportive, group of people around you from your family and your best friend, but to still keep it in.
I think, I didn't want to put the pressure on and it sounds crazy because you have a circle of support, but you don't want to lay that on everyone because not everyone knows how to respond. Yeah. It's like, well, what do you want us to do for you?
That's interesting that you shared that with me, Tori, because for someone that didn't have a backup plan, you sure found a way to recover and create, all these remarkable platforms for yourself. So kind of share with us all, what you have going on pretty much.
Literally the transition, it was kind of rolling the dice on a couple of things. I had always been, as an athlete, focused and disciplined on my sport. And so I feel like I didn't have the opportunity to maybe experiment or do other little things that I might have wanted to do while I was competing. And as far as my small business, the apparel business, focus on track and field uniforms, but currently scaling it so I can be able to offer more into different sports, a variety of sports, and scaling it out to bring on more clientele. I had that set up from the time when I was an athlete, from 2013. I wasn't doing much with it because it was at the back burner. I cared about track and field. That was the only thing that I was doing. So that was kind of there, and I want to say it's been that golden egg that was just laying.
Yeah, share with us a little bit more about your apparel line. Actually, what's the name of it?
Polk Apparel.
Polk Apparel.
Mm-hmm. It's funny how it all works. It fell into my lap literally. The years that I started finding more success within track and field were the years that I coached myself, and that success, I think it's pretty much the whole journey of those 3.5 years is what molded me as far as characteristics, discipline, learning how to do certain things, expect the unexpected, walk by faith, the whole nine. But with the apparel line, there was a gentleman that was supposed to make my uniform for me. Communications were off, and somewhere I got the bright idea, I can make my own uniform.
Right.
And so I bought a sewing machine and some fabric and figured it out.
Oh, you literally made your own.
I literally, yes. And then so I started wearing it on the circuit. This is at the time when I didn't have a contract, and it kicked up dust. A lot of people were asking, they're like, "Where'd you get this?" I think one of my first units was a camouflage one. I loved the camo, and it started picking up a lot of traffic, and then people were, "Hey, can you make me a uniform?" Right. I was like, "Well, sure."
Right.
I think I'm on to something. I might be on to something. Yeah. And so that's kind of how that got going, the whole nine.
Okay.
And the process of starting your own business, especially because I had no idea what I was doing. It was a field that I didn't know anything about, and I'm still learning as far as graphics and all the things that you can possibly do with apparel. It's unlimited.
I definitely understand that. But what I'm really interested about is what sparked your interest into becoming a life coach?
Even in my last few years of competing as an athlete, I started finding myself in this role of mentoring, more so to speak. And it came from, I think, everything that I went through with coaching myself. That the experience in itself taught me a lot of lessons, and I feel like the lessons that I learned within that, and not just when I was coaching myself, with track and field, period, it gave me the ability to give back to some of the new and upcoming athletes, the younger ones that were new on the scene. And it didn't stop there. I had friends and family that I realized I was beginning to be that mentor guidance role to help people. A lot of people, I think we have things that we want to do, things that we want to accomplish, but sometimes you don't even know where to start. You don't know how to get going. And that can always stall your progress, because you could be a perfectionist. You could say, I want to have it A, B, C, D, but you don't have to do that. You can start now. And I think just kind of being that tour guide for people and helping them close the gap between where they are and where they want to be. It's always been sort of a natural role to me. So I think it only made sense.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. And it seems like being a life coach does go hand in hand with being an author. So tell us about your book.
I am actually on the board of a nonprofit. It's a Christian nonprofit, God's Natural Pearls. We empower young ladies that might not have the opportunity, or they come from a different environment, to help them, set them up for success, basically later on in life. A friend of mine started the nonprofit. I had the same passions, and it was beautiful that I was able to come into an organization that was already set up, and I can just do what I like doing. Yeah. So I ended up writing the workbook for it. It's pretty much lessons for young Christian girls, life lessons, and helping them throughout life.
Which is needed. Well, is there anything that you would like to share with the up and coming athletes, just on how to prepare? Give us some of your life lessons.
Become a student. A student of your sport, hands down. I think when you can do that, that will make a big difference. The other thing is continue to walk by faith, like that, hands down. There were many times where I couldn't see the whole picture. I barely could see the next step, but that it didn't stop me. I just kept rolling. I feel like when you get on your path and you're starting to move fluidly, things will come into your life exactly how they're supposed to be.
Is that what you would tell the 16-year-old Tori?
That is some of what I would tell the 16-year-old Tori. I would tell me to continue to be tenacious, continue to believe in yourself, and if possible, have somebody that's been where it is that you're trying to go. That way you can have that guidance that you need.
Definitely understand that. What is the number one thing that you learned from, your athletic career that you apply right now in your business, or just even in your everyday life?
Oh, I believe in me. I don't think there's anything that I can't do. I don't think there's anything I can't do. I know there's areas that I can improve upon, but if you tell me how to fly a plane or try to I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah. I think I'll always bet on me.
That's a mind of a champion. I believe the same thing. So all of us athletes think alike.
Yeah.
Well, Tori, it was great having you on my show. Talking to you is like talking to family. I mean, you are family. We're fellow Red Raiders.
Thank you.
But before I let you go, why don't you share with everyone, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Miss Tori Polk. That's MSTORIPOLK. And my website is the same, www.misstoripolk.com. And then my apparel business, it's Polk Apparel, www.polkapparel.com.
Well, that's our time. You just experienced the professional athlete. I'm Jabari K. Smith. Until next time, stay positive, stay productive, and stay in the present. We out.
Fingers